I still remember the smell of cut pine and hot creosote when I stepped out of the truck that Tuesday afternoon. The sun was high, the cicadas were screaming, and something that sounded like a diesel pile driver was hammering the living daylights out of the far shore of my lake. I walked the path slow, boots crunching gravel, telling myself it had to be a mistake. It wasn't. 60 feet of dock, wide enough for two Boston whalers side by side, was already framed out, steel pilings driven so deep the water around them looked bruised. For men in sweat-soaked shirts were wrestling stringers into place like they'd done it 1,000 times. A woman in a navy blazer and white capris stepped in front of me before I reached the water's edge. "Sir, this is an active construction site," she said, clipboard raised like a shield. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." I knew that voice from years of HOA newsletters I never asked for. Margaret Whitlock, president, treasurer, social chairman, and self-appointed queen of Willow Ridge Estates. "Margaret," I said, keeping my hands in plain sight, "you're about 47 feet inside my property line. Turn it off." She gave me the tight little smile people use when they think they've already won. "Henry Callahan. I was wondering when you'd show up." The board voted unanimously on March 12th to develop this underutilized shoreline for the benefit of all residents. Guests included. It's in the minutes. I pulled my phone out, opened the county GIS map, zoomed until the red boundary line sat square on her shoes. This parcel was carved out in 1987, before your subdivision was even a gleam in a developer's eye. "You're trespassing." She didn't look at the screen. "We have documentation that says otherwise." "You have a photocopy of a 2019 sidewalk permit for County Road 41, I said. "I already checked." For the first time, something flickered across her face. Not fear. Margaret didn't do fear. Just irritation, like a mosquito had landed on her plans. "Security," she called over her shoulder. Two golf cart rent-a-cops started toward us. One had his hand on a can of pepper spray like he'd seen too many movies. "Margaret," I said quietly, "you've got about 30 seconds to shut this down before the county gets involved. After that, it's out of both our hands." She lifted her chin. "You're interfering with an approved project. That's $500 a day, payable immediately." "Send me the bill," I said, and started taking pictures. I got the fake permit, the invoice stickers on the lumber, the faces of every man on the crew, and one crystal-clear shot of Margaret standing in front of my no trespassing sign that had been there since 1994. Then I walked away before I said something I'd regret in front of witnesses. That night I sat on the porch with a yellow legal pad and a glass of Maker's Mark I didn't taste. My phone buzzed at 11:17 p.m. Unknown number. I answered. "Henry." Male voice, low, East Tennessee drawl thickened with bourbon or anger. "You need to let this go? Folks have long memories around here." "Who is this?" Click. I saved the recording. Next morning, I was at the county courthouse when the doors opened. The clerk, Darlene, knew my family. "Morning, Henry. What kind of trouble you in today?" "The kind with steel pilings," I said, and slid the fake permit across the counter. She typed the number in, frowned. "This permit's for a sidewalk on the other side of the county. Expired 4 years ago." "I know," I said. "Can you print me everything you've got on Willow Ridge HOA financials for the last 3 years?" Darlene glanced around, lowered her voice. "Margaret Whitlock comes in here herself sometimes. Acts like she owns the place." "She doesn't own my lake," I said. By noon I had Tom Hargrove, the senior building inspector, following my truck down the dirt road. Tom's been doing this since I was in high school. He climbed out, adjusted his steel cap, and stared at the half-finished dock like it had insulted his mother. "Lord have mercy," he muttered. "Who signed off on this?" "Nobody," I said. "That's the problem." He spent an hour measuring, photographing, running his laser up and down the pilings. Then he pulled a red tag from his clipboard and stapled it over Margaret's forgery so hard the staple squealed. "Stop work order," he announced to the empty site. "Effective immediately. Anybody touches another nail gets a $5,000 ticket and a ride downtown." He turned to me. "Henry, I'm filing this with the DA this afternoon. Forging a county permit's a felony." "I was hoping you'd say that," I told him. 2 days later, Margaret called what she billed as an emergency community forum. I wasn't invited, but my neighbor Ray was. Ray showed up at my door afterward looking like he'd swallowed a lemon. "She told everybody you're trying to keep the lake for yourself," he said. "Said you turned down a fair offer to buy it last year. Said the dock would add $30,000 to every property value and pay for itself with short-term rental fees." "Margaret offered me $180,000, I said. "Appraised values north of $2 million. And the only person renting lakefront is Margaret." Ray rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't sign the petition, Henry, but 37 others did." "I noticed," I said. "That night, I hired a drone pilot out of Knoxville and a surveying crew booked 2 weeks out. Money was tight, but some things you don't skimp on." The surveyor, Luke McKinney, showed up with 3 college kids and enough GPS gear to chart the moon. 3 days later, he handed me a rolled plat. "Dock sits 47 feet inside your line, Henry. I'd stake my license on it." I already had the water quality report, 34% increase in suspended sediment, and drone footage so sharp you could read the serial numbers on the pilings. I put it all in a binder thick enough to stop a bullet. Then I waited. The newspaper story broke on a Thursday. Front page, color photo of the red tag flapping in the breeze. Headline: Local HOA president accused of building $47,000 dock on private lake TO boost rental business. By Friday, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Old friends apologizing. Strangers cheering. A television station out of Knoxville wanting an interview. Margaret went quiet. Too quiet. Saturday morning Ray called. You need to get down to the clubhouse, he said. It's standing room only. I didn't go. Ray recorded it on his phone. Margaret stood at the podium in the same navy blazer. I want to assure everyone, she was saying, that every expenditure was properly voted on and documented. Someone shouted, where's the $47,000, Margaret? Another voice. Why does your rental website say private yacht dock coming June 2025? The room erupted. I could hear chairs scraping, people yelling over each other. Then Tom Hargrove walked in wearing his county jacket. A woman near the front asked loud enough for the microphone to catch it. Mr. Hargrove, does that dock have a legal permit? Tom didn't hesitate. No, ma'am. The permit posted is fraudulent. Case is with the district attorney right now. You could have heard a pin drop. Ray said Margaret went white as copier paper, gathered her clipboard, and walked straight out the back door. Hasn't been seen at a meeting since. Monday she resigned by email. Tuesday the new board president, a retired Air Force colonel named Bill Dutton, called me personally. Henry, he said, voice shaking a little, we had no idea. We're hiring a forensic accountant. Whatever it costs to make this right, we'll pay it. Start by taking the dock down, I told him. Then we'll talk money. They hired my lawyer, James Whitaker, to represent them in the civil suit just to keep it out of the papers any more than it already was. The hearing lasted 38 minutes. Judge Evelyn Morris is 63, former prosecutor, no patience for nonsense. James laid the binder on the bench like he was offering gold to a dragon. Your Honor, he began. The defendants constructed a commercial structure on private property using forged documents and misappropriated HOA funds. We're asking for immediate removal, $127,000 in damages, and a permanent injunction. Margaret's attorney, some young hotshot from Knoxville, tried the good faith defense. Judge Morris cut him off halfway through his first sentence. Counselor, good faith does not involve photocopying a 2019 sidewalk permit and pretending it authorizes a yacht dock. Sit down. She turned to Bill Dutton. Colonel, does the HOA intend to remove this trespass? Yes, ma'am, Bill said. Soon as you tell us when. 30 days, she said, banging the gavel so hard the water glasses jumped. After that, title to the entire structure transfers to Mr. Callahan. He can sell it, burn it, or park it in his front yard for all I care. Margaret stood up, so fast her chair rolled into the rail. She looked straight at me for the first time since this started. You'll regret this, Henry, she said, voice low enough only I could hear. No, Margaret, I answered. I really won't. 30 days came and went. Not a single truck showed up. On day 31, James filed the forfeiture motion. Judge Morris signed it before lunch. I called Frank Manis, best salvage man in East Tennessee. Frank, I said, how much to pull a 60-foot dock and haul it off my lake? He walked the site, scratched numbers on the back of an envelope. 8,000 cash, or I keep the scrap and do it for 4. Start Monday, I told him. For days later the lake was empty again. Frank handed me a check for $11,800. Steel's through the roof, he said, grinning. I kept one piling, 8 feet of galvanized steel with Tom Hargrove's faded red tag still stapled to it. Margaret got indicted in August. 1 count forgery of a public document, 1 count theft over $10,000, 1 count criminal trespass. The DA's not offering any deals. 8 families filed a class action suit for the missing reserve money. Last I heard they're asking for treble damages. Margaret sold 6 of her 9 rentals at fire sale prices and moved to Panama City under her maiden name. The remaining 3 houses sit empty, for sale signs bleaching in the sun. I used part of the settlement to restore the shoreline, native grasses, coontail, a few strategically placed brush piles for the crappie. Built myself a little 12x16 fishing pier, permitted and inspected. Tom Hargrove signed the final himself. That steel piling stands at the head of my pier now, sunk in concrete, bronze plaque gleaming. Built without permission. Taken by law. 2025. Every morning I walk past it with a cup of coffee and check the water temperature. The bass are fat, the herons are back, and the only thing sticking out over my lake belongs to me. That's the story. Now I want to hear yours. Have you ever had someone try to take what your family bled for? Did you fight loud or fight smart? Did you keep what was yours, or are you still in the trenches? Drop your story below. Tell me where you're watching from, and tell me straight. Do you still believe facts and patience can beat money and entitlement in this country, or have we already lost that war? I read every single comment. Speak your mind. This is still America, at least for now.